Hello, today we're back on Dreamcatcher Radio, and I've got the fantastic opportunity to be here with Ryan Kershaw, who's not only kindly agreed to be a presenter on Dreamcatcher Radio, but also he's going to tell us a bit about his story because he's got a very, very interesting story, a passage to talk about music, a little bit about upbringing, and he's also going to share some of his music during this show. Now, Ryan, we are
Yes.
talking in the morning time. This is a pre-record purely because of you're a busy man at the moment organising stuff. Brian, tell us a bit about yourself, about being a kid and stuff like that, and what was life like?
Um, yeah, pretty good. I started off my life in Scotland until I was about 3 years old, and we moved down south, and I actually lived in a place called Ashby de la Zouch near Derby. As far as I can remember, that's where it was near, and lived there until I was about 7 years old. And yeah, life was good down there, just standard sort of upbringing, mum, dad, sister. And then we come back up to Scotland, which was different, when we came back up to Scotland because it was the reason we came back up was because my parents had separated. So me, my mum, and my sister came back up, and we sort of lived with my auntie for a while. And um, yeah, from there again, things were good. Um, I would say um, things got there were some difficult times
Mhm.
from the ages of from 7 till about high school, um, purely because of where we lived, and it wasn't the most social place, and it wasn't the most. It was a rough area.
Is that the
So
Scotland bit, 7 till?
yeah, when we moved back up to Scotland,
That's
um, and then eventually moved back to the hometown that we started off in, when I was just going into high school, and from there, yeah, things were fantastic. I got a really good group of friends who were all musicians. We all got into music together. We all formed bands and performed at all the local discos and all the local school events, and um, performed in the talent shows, and even played in the bands that provided the music for the annual sort of not pantomime, but sort of play that they would put on, um, things like that. And then yeah,
what age?
after
What age were you then, Ryan?
let's say from about then 14 on, or 13, 14.
Wow, you were finding your own gigs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We had our own band, and we would. This is way before the internet and things like that, So we would do our own posters and pass them around the school, and it was great. We thought we were rock stars. We had we had groupies and things like that. We had fans following us about. Not fans, but just local groupies, etc. So yeah, from the ages of like 14. Um, yeah,
And
from there, I went to North Glasgow College and studied music performance and promotion.
uh,
Um,
I'm
which was
interested in your entrepreneurial bit of starting so young and flyers and all that. What did you call yourselves?
we had a couple of names. We were really big Green Day fans, so first name of the band was a band name called Basket Case.
That sounds like a Del Boy sort of band name.
Yeah, because I thought I was Billy Joe. I really did think I was him. I was obsessed. And then we changed the name to, really, it sounds like a wedding band now, but it's called Private Access.
Oh my days. Is that like
I don't
18
know.
plus by the sounds of it?
Oh, and then to be fair, I did miss a really important part out. I was in a band just after school, I would say, um, or just in the tail end of leaving school, called Fuel.
Cool.
Fuel, the band was called, and it was me and a couple of really close friends, and I bought a guy that was a few years older than us, who was the guitar. He was like a god. When we met him, he was like a god on the guitar because he could play. He could play like John Squire, Love Is the Law, full lead solos and things that we could. I thought I would never be able to play in a million years. So we got him on board, and then that's when we started. When I started really looking for gigs, like we performed 3 or 4 nights on a night, all around local youth clubs, local pubs, venues in Glasgow, Edinburgh, all over. That was up until the ages of about, say, I'm only up to 16 now.
Can I ask a question? I've got two actually. Number one is, what's it like falling out with your bandmates? Secondly, how much did you charge back in the day?
We get nothing. We didn't charge anything because we were so young. And I did my first TV performance with this band, the band called Fuel, when I was 15.
Right.
So we were so young, we were just so chuffed to be doing it, and we never get paid, unfortunately, back in those days. But falling out with your bandmates, it was devastating at the time because you always thought that you would put your band before anything else. It was the most important thing in the world. And the really sad thing is about that band, Fuel, is that we did eventually split up and fall out. And the guitar player that I mentioned, he passed away
Mm.
4 years ago. So yeah, that was, and yeah, we did speak occasionally, for the years afterwards. But yeah, that was a hard one to take.
So were you the coolest kids in the school then?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, well, we did think so anyway. We thought so. We would, we said we'd perform all the local discos and all the local youth clubs. And
That's a fantastic experience.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't change any of that for the world. When I got to high school, we had a great time. Even when I went, every class that I went to, I would just say, I've got a music lesson, and I would just go and sit in music all day, every day. And
Wow.
because it was keeping me out of trouble, the teachers let me do it.
Yeah.
Because the alternatives to where I grew up were taking drugs, running about, vandalising, causing trouble. So I just chose music as a sort of output, and even the head of music, he'd know I wasn't supposed to be there, but again, he would let me just
That's somewhat forward-thinking teaching, isn't it?
absolutely. And yeah, I think back then in the 90s, that's what some of the teachers were like at high school. If you had a talent and you had something that was keeping you occupied, it's like Billy Connolly says, I've no reason to learn algebra because I'm never intending on going there.
Yeah, yeah. I understand. So you're saying then basically from there, did you have any long-term girlfriends during that period before you went to college? Because you was going to talk about college next.
Um, no, not really. No, we would at that age we would sort of all the groupies would all sort of swap girlfriends weekly.
Oh my days.
Yeah, yeah, but starting college, that's when I did have my first sort of semi-serious girlfriend. Yeah, I had for a couple of years.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And what did you study at college? I'm guessing music again.
yeah, music performance and promotion.
And promotion, that involves promoting your music or promoting anything.
Yeah, well, again, back then it's totally different. That qualification, I would say, is apart from the performance side of things, is really really quite irrelevant because back then it was all about creating and let's say your one of your modules was to create an electronic press kit. Well, it wasn't even an electronic press kit back then; it was a press kit, and you would actually physically have to go and get photographs taken and make up an actual proper PR pack to send out to people and things like that. But nowadays things are just so different. The music industry evolves on a weekly basis these days.
You say back in the day, how old are you now, right?
I'm I'm 42 this year, so I'm
Great.
not old yet, but certainly old enough
So,
to be about the music when before the internet took over.
yeah, people don't realize how young the internet is.
No, I know. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my kids don't have. Everybody will say this now, and probably my parents said the same when I was young. My kids have not a clue. You know what I mean? They just take everything for granted.
Even mobile phones, people don't realize that it's
No,
still a
no. I
young.
remember. I remember getting my first mobile phone,
Mhm.
and again, I must have been about 16, 17 years old.
Wow, you were lucky.
Mm.
So on
Yeah.
that point then of being lucky, were your parents, because by the sounds of it, your parents were very loving to you. Were you bank on parents kind of thing for all the gear that you need and that sort of stuff? Do you get a lot of support from your parents?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it would annoy, especially my mum, because as you can imagine, sitting listening to me playing the guitar for 8 hours a day learning. But
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely, they were very supportive. My dad was really supportive as well. He would always, I remember going, like, as we're going to talk about college, and I remember going into Glasgow and just going into music shops to try out a few guitars. And I
Mm.
played this, I think it was a Tanglewood guitar. And at the time, it was a pretty expensive guitar to what I'm used to. And my dad just pulled out his bank card and paid for it for me to take to
Oh,
college. So yeah, I was very lucky.
it's fantastic. Now, let's talk about college then. You're going to move on to that then. What your journey through college? How long was that for?
I'm going to be honest. It was college was just a bunch of young guys playing the guitar, having a laugh, not taking anything seriously, and not completing the work, and just spending your bursary going into Glasgow and not coming back for 4 days, and it was just, as you can imagine, it was just a music college essentially. But yes, we certainly learned a lot in regards to how to perform as a band and how to sort of learn each other's parts and how to perform and how to look on stage. See, that was the big thing at college. It doesn't matter 10% how you sound, you know what I mean? It's how you look, essentially, at the end of the day. Um, so yeah, college was really good. It was great fun. It's great fun. Looking back at it now, I wish I'd stuck in more and done more with it, because now I'm looking for opportunities all the time to do training, to learn more.
So you still think, despite the journey you've been on, which I know a bit about already, you still think now you're still learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Every day experiment and try new things, because as I said, you never know what's going to work, and you never know and it doesn't matter. It just depends on who hears you. Who hears it? It's your luck. It's your luck at the end of the day. Unfortunately, we'll get into this later probably, but the music industry now it's a terrible place. It really is. At the end of the day, places like Spotify and TikTok dictate who's popular. You don't hear people who are talented these days. You hear people who's got the most money for marketing. Yeah, that's what. If I had £100,000 to spend on marketing, I'm pretty sure I can get my song well known.
Mm.
Just paying a few influencers on TikTok to promote my music and things like that, and that's all it takes.
Mm.
Um,
I know he's a bit strange, but I did actually somehow come across Kanye West talking about how corrupt the music industry is
yeah,
and how much they fleece you as soon as they realize they can make some money from you, and what sort of contracts they get you to sign up to,
yeah,
where you become literally possibly poorer than before you even signed that contract.
yeah. I mean, straight up with a record contract, usually, yeah, they'll maybe offer you, let's say with a standard small contract, they offer you like 40, 50,000 pounds. I
Mm.
think that's fantastic, but that's not yours. When you release your music, they're going to take all that back before they give you a penny. So
Mm.
it's a terrible industry, and as I said, everybody, because Spotify's got the monopoly in a lot of things, they pay nothing. So people always use their money to market towards getting Spotify streams, getting
And when they get there, they find there's no gold at the end of the rainbow.
yeah, there's not, it's not what you put in money wise is not worth what you get back. So nowadays, when it comes to my music, I'm not fussed. I don't care if 100,000 people hear my music, or if 100 people hear it. I would rather 100 people heard it who want to hear it than
Mm.
100,000 people who are forced to hear it on some playlist.
So going back to college then, did you complete your course or just flunk it, give up?
I'll be honest, flunk.
Yeah.
I completed some of the modules, so I do have some of the qualifications on my sort of certificates. I do have those sort of music qualifications, but yeah, in general, the whole course, no, total flunk. I think everybody, I don't know who passed it. I'll be surprised if anybody in my year passed that course.
I imagine when the certificates were coming out, you guys were busy elsewhere playing music.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
what did you do afterwards? Because I know you've got kids and stuff like that. What was your next journey? Did you actually go into having a job, or did you?
Yeah, so afterwards, music seemed like a dream at that point. You know, it's like I had no didn't know how a clue how to get into sort of the music industry apart from all I wanted to be was a rock star. You know, I had no ambition to be an executive in any sort of form in the music industry. I just wanted to be a rock star. So after college, I I actually got a job with the council, the local council.
Mhm.
It's actually just an office job, an office junior. That was my first sort of job after college, and that was for a few years, you know. And again, just a young, stupid boy, didn't do any work, but because it was the local council, I don't know what it's like your way, but it's a maybe it's a misconception, but if you got a job with the council, they always say it's a job for life.
Yes, the same
Um,
impression down here.
yeah, but I didn't. I think it was maybe 3 or 4 years that went on, and then I was just jumping from job to job to job from there on until I was about 30.
Is that because you just wanted to fun doing music and you wasn't interested? You just want a bit of cash flow?
Yeah, essentially. Um, Half of me, because I had at that point I'd met my wife. You know, I met my wife when I was at school when I was like 13, 14. But wasn't until I was born 18. I was 18 years old. That's when we started sort of going out as a boyfriend and girlfriend when I was 18. So at this point, I did have a girlfriend. We did have perhaps thoughts of moving in together and
Mm.
perhaps eventually having a family. But obviously, deep down, you still have that desire that you want to be a musician. And at that point, I thought it was an impossible dream. But I did continue it on, you know. But at this point, it wasn't in bands. It was mostly in acoustic duos. Um, and me and my friend would write songs together and perform them. I would say that was quite successful. You know, we used to go to Edinburgh Fringe Festival and perform the streets. We got picked up by a record label in Edinburgh, and we done a couple of a recording with I can't remember the name of it. But I think the studio, the Batcave Studios or something like that. We went and recorded a few songs for us, so independently released it. Um, yeah, and I still play with that guy to this day. My friend Brian, we still play together. No, we don't write together as much because we don't have much time. Both are busy with families and jobs. But whenever I performed at Classic Grand in Glasgow last month, and he came along, joined me, helped
Wow,
fill in.
but it's a great opportunity to sharing memories, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, it's great. I mean, some of the songs that I've written are on my last album, especially. I mean, some of these songs are 20 years old that were written by me and my friend when we were young boys. You
Mm.
know,
I
and it's just
suppose
sort of.
also, just going back to your relationship with your partner, is because your relationship started very young, she knew kind of what she was getting into with your prolific addiction for music and being in music.
She ever at that point really not been funny, just not paid much attention. She just thought it was a hobby to me
All right.
because I was just sort of performing maybe 2 or 3 nights at open mics here and there. Again, very rarely getting paid. I've always had a I got offered lots of gigs, and I've been offered gigs that equate to thousands of pounds over the years to play pubs and play cover songs and things like that. I've done it a few times, and I can't stand it.
Oh,
I
really?
don't know. I don't like performing other people's songs. I think it's absolutely pointless unless you want to be a club singer. That's not what I want to be. I'll maybe revert back to that in my late 50s when all else is gone and I want to make some extra money. Then I'll go and do some, some
But,
club work.
but
But
when you're dribbling outside of the microphone,
yeah, absolutely. And then I'll go and maybe play some covers at some old folks' homes to get some money and something like that. But
what's your favourite genre of music?
it's it's so eclectic, my taste. I mean, I'm a huge vinyl collector, and I've got everything from Blind Willie McTell to System of a Down. That's how far it goes apart from each other. everything from jazz to heavy metal. But I would say primarily I mean, the Beatles have been my biggest influence. It's pretty cliche to say, and a lot of people say that, but the Beatles were a huge part of my life growing up. Later in my life, it was more like the Doors, Pink Floyd, sort of that psychedelic rock. But in these sort of times, it's people like Neil Young, Sufjan Stevens, the occasional musical.
Just 50's knocking on your door, isn't it?
It's getting there.
Yeah, Steve, who's the station manager for Dreamcatcher Radio, he calls himself mad about musicals. He loves them.
Oh yeah,
fantastic. Yeah, they are fantastic. I've been watching more since Steve does his little private show every week. Yeah. So Ryan, I know you're going to play us your first song. What is your first song that you want to share with us? Can you give us a little bit of background story to it, what it's about, and the name of the song?
The name of the song is Let Me Be Your Song. This is quite funny. The title of the song was borrowed from another song of the same title called Let Me Be Your Song, and it's sang by the Minstrels. The Minstrels were the band in Fraggle Rock. If you remember Fraggle Rock, the Jim Henson puppets. The band in that was called the Minstrels, and they sang this song called "Let Me Be Your Song." And I think even now it's better than half the music that's out in the charts just now. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and I just love that concept of "Let Me Be Your Song," of the idea of being somebody's song. And I don't know I think you can understand what that means. Is that something there to rely on, some comfort. As we all do especially I do with music. It's a way of expressing how you feel, and you listen to music when you're in certain moods, and I think the idea of being somebody's song is quite a nice concept. And the song was written for my oldest daughter, Lyra. So yeah, I wrote it for her when I was in a bad place, which we'll get to, of course. But it was quite a dark time in my life, and it was how I was feeling at the time, and that's where it came from.
Okay, here is Let Me Be Your Song by Ryan Kershaw. We're going to be back shortly after this.
Feel your heartbeat next to my own. I can't believe how much you have grown. Nothing's louder than the end of a song, the end of a song that's always been sung. See you standing there in my mind's eye, always in my thoughts, baby don't cry. Let me be your song, your confidant. To be a song is all that I want. You'll always be my little girl. Nothing's changed, you're still my world. Find a special place for me. In your heart of hearts I'll always be. Sudden silence seems so loud. As your father, know I am so proud. Let me be your song, lighting up my life, a smile and grace. You never fail to put a smile on my face. The world will know your name, the lyre bell. You'll coax the world out of its shell. You're still my world. I'll be on my knees. There are other worlds than this, and in them all I need your kiss. Let me be your song.
Wow, I can see why you titled that song, and yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Now, we ended on about down days. We all have them in life. Let's talk about down days, and not so much the definition of down days to you, but maybe some experiences that you can share, and how I believe music has helped you in your life, because I've had the benefit of a prior conversation briefly, though, very briefly, about a bit of your life stories, and it seems like it's a pretty hectic passage, always with a nice ending, it appears to me.
Yeah, well, it's like you said, when dark days, when it comes to, for me anyway, when it comes to especially writing music, it always seems to come from that place. You know, it's when you're struggling, is when I seem to want to write. When you're 100%, I truly believe that if you're 100% happy and content and comfortable in everything that you're doing, then you're not going to be able to write a decent. Because what are you going to write about? You know, I think that as an artist, you need that sort of struggle in your life. This is just the way I feel about it. I mean,
So negativity draws you to write music. When you're feeling, a little bit down or periods of isolation in your life, or you just need to go away. I mean, I know there's quite a lot of artists who say their best music is written in 10 minutes. It just shoots into the head and that's it.
Yep. It's almost like a trance. I always describe it as like a trance-like state. I mean, my songwriting process is really weird. I mean, sometimes, yes, I can write a song in 10 minutes and it's in my head and it's boom, and it's on paper and it's done, walk away and it's finished. But other times I can write a song and go back to it 7 years later, because what will happen is I'll write a song or part of a song, I'll shelf that, and then when another inspiration hits, I'll start writing a song, and I get to a point where what can go here in this song, and just by chance, something that I've written 5 or 6 years earlier that I've not finished using manages to slot in with this new song, and
so like,
I'm able to finish a song that I'm still writing songs consistently in between, but then I'm able to write songs that have perhaps took 10 years to complete, but I'm not intending that to be the case, it just happens.
Yeah, so stop the cobwebs and go back to it. So basically, so you don't suddenly wake up in the morning and say, I want to write a song today. You wait for it to come to you to say, let's
Yes,
write a song.
again, it sounds really, oh, I'm an artist, but because obviously you hear stories about Paul McCartney and John Lennon having dreams and things like that, but I will wake up and then have to grab my phone, grab the voice note, and then hum these 5 or 6 notes that won't stop playing in my head.
But
And
Mrs.
what I find is as well is, rather than, I can play anything, not to be blowing my own trumpet, but if I can hear a song and I look at a song, I can play it. I can go onto YouTube, look at somebody who's playing it, and within 5 minutes I can play that song, as most musicians can do. But if you try and remember a song or work out a song without doing that, a really difficult song, sometimes you can come up with something yourself. Most music has been done before. So I'm not saying that to steal other people's music, but what I'm saying is that that's how we get inspiration from other artists. Or try and play something that maybe they would approve of.
I mean, funny you should say that though. Ed Sheeran had that High Court case, didn't he, where they were trying to claim that that was their music. But as he rightly said, there's only 8 tunes, different chords.
Listen, in that case, he was 100% right in what he's saying. But what he did on that song, if you strip out his voice, it's pretty much a replica of who was it again? It was,
Can't remember.
But yeah, it was a bit too close for my liking. But yeah, he's got a point. Everything has essentially been done. That's why copyright only lasts so long, because otherwise you'd never be able to write music. Yeah, I would imagine that's the case anyway.
But certainly where your songs, I'm not saying necessarily yours, but where people's songs get remixed and stuff like that, that's pretty epic.
I think explaining what I was trying to say there in regards to working out other people's songs, I think it's better if we go back and I tell you sort of the dark days.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Back to that, and that essentially will make sense. What I'm trying to say there is that after, of course, as I said, college and getting married and all that kind of all that stuff. I'd kind of given up music, not given up, but just as a hobby, I'd play in the house. No intentions of writing music, no intentions of recording music. And it wasn't until I was, 5 years ago, my life just took an absolute U-turn, like nosedive. I was just a standard family man, wife, 2 kids, cars, mortgages, doing my HNC and social care and blah 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 blah, and just being a normal guy, just trying to make my way in life. And I made a terrible mistake, and then ended up with a 2-year prison sentence. So I went from having just a normal nice life to being locked up 23 hours a day, So that's where the dark days came in.
And those dark days then, did that give you your creativity back then? You like making loads of notes and stuff like that?
I was very, very fortunate that obviously just talk. I can't remember how it happened, but talking to one of the other prisoners who was quite friendly, they sort of didn't take me under his wing. I wasn't interested in being under anybody's wing, but he sort of introduced me to the music teacher, who was like, because obviously it was like an educational sort of place where if you don't misbehave, you can essentially go to classes during the day and do workshops and things like that, rather than sitting in your cell. So I was introduced to the music teacher, and just by chance, I was offered within a day. I was offered the music ambassador's job.
Wow.
Which is, again, I'm not proud of that because of where I was, but it was certainly.
You turned the negative into a positive. So
Yeah, I was just very, very fortunate. I picked up a guitar, I played something, and he went, "Do you want to be the music ambassador?" Because I'll be honest, I was probably, again, it seems like a blown on trumpet, but I'm good on the guitar. You know, I'm quite good. And so, yeah, I turned a few heads within the first day. And that was me. So while I was there, I was able to go to music and help out there.
So how often were you allowed out your cell then? How much more time out did they give you?
At first, Monday to Friday, it was like 9 in the morning to maybe 3 in the afternoon
Oh, fantastic.
in the music department. But obviously with breaks in between and stuff like that, where you'd have to go back. But that didn't last long because COVID set in, and then
Right.
we were sort of confined 24 hours a day.
So how long did you have the opportunity? Because you were there for 2 years. How much did
No,
you?
no. Well, I got a 2 year sentence, but to be honest, I only served 6 months.
Oh, okay. All right. So
So
the
I know that's not as bad. I can guarantee you, it's not pleasant.
yeah. Well, we're going to go and talk about how you're helping other people who've been through similar sort of paths as well. But so essentially though, that brought you back to remembering about music because, like you say, there's f all else you can do.
Yeah. Well,
Mm,
again, I was able to. I'm a very quite a good people person. I can mirror people when I can blend into sort of most situations. So I was able to challenge myself to get a guitar back to myself, and I was able to sit and play the guitar all day when I was in myself.
and
And
that,
I got back to a level because I was really good in my early 20s, but if you don't play, and I wasn't playing for like 5 or 6 years, and if you
yeah.
don't play, you get rusty. And I was getting back to my former glory. You know, I was able to do some. I was impressing myself on the guitar, and I had nothing else to do but write songs. And there was a music teacher, not a music teacher. Well, he was teaching the music, because other people were off. He was sort of taking the computer class and the music class. And every day that I went and wrote a new song, he was always blown away. And I never knew if it was just encouragement or if it was genuine. Wow, this guy's really good. But it encouraged me enough to keep writing and keep trying to impress people, with those songs. And
Yeah, I think more so in prison, it's very much hard for staff to get people to be involved.
100%.
And if they found someone that they know they can definitely help, they will invest in you.
Absolutely.
You're few and far between, I imagine. Um,
Absolutely, yeah. When I was there, she said that you would go to music class, but most guys would just come in and read the newspaper and drink tea. They wouldn't
mm,
pick up an instrument or do anything like that.
yeah.
Um,
So that's what I. And also the fact that they allowed you a guitar in your cell as well.
yeah.
The
Well, that's
it's,
what I was saying is just so that's the bits in my head is because of me being in myself, I didn't have access to music that I wanted to listen to. So
mm.
I had my guitar and I had my memory, and all I could do was like, let's try and remember how to play this song. And as I was trying to work out how to play, let's say a Neil Young song, I'm trying to work out how to play a Neil Young song. In the process of doing so, I would mistakenly write my own song. Because I would play something and goes, oh, that's not quite right, but it sounds really good. Then I would go off on a tangent and just try and write my own song
how,
off the back of trying to work out somebody else's.
how many songs did you manage to walk away with in prison?
Probably 20.
20. Okay, that's good going. Have you managed to release any of them?
I think in total online, there's 14, 14 tracks now, 15 tracks online.
Yeah.
And if you're a true fan of mine, you have my vinyl records. There's an extra track on the new vinyl that came out last week.
Just while you mentioned that, actually, whilst we're on that point, where can people find you? We'll mention it again at the end, but where can they find you? How do they get to you?
Everywhere, to so more social media, so Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. But Instagram's my main sort of outlet. I'm not a very good TikToker, and I'm not a very good. So I use Instagram essentially. But even there, just Google Ryan Kershaw. I try and keep my name across the board as Ryan Kershaw official. So keep
Ryan
some sort
Kershaw
of
Official.
yeah. Yeah,
Perfect.
so you can just search and you'll find it. To be fair though, there is another Ryan Kershaw out there that does music, but I think I've overtaken him.
It looks some music, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Okay, right. So upon leaving prison, what happened next? Because your journey changed quite a lot.
Yeah. Well, again, I just had this bag of songs that I didn't think anything of, and I had this is again, it sounds really strange, but I remember talking to my mum in the visitors hall, just an absolute depression, just sitting there, and it's like, and just I just felt the urge to say that I just felt like I was destined for something great. It's like, I'm destined for something great, mum. And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, I don't know. I'm destined for something, and this is not it. And then I got out, and a friend sent me a newspaper clipping of a record label that was starting in Glasgow for to help ex-prisoners. And I thought, you know what? Let's just send her an email. So I managed to get hold of the person who sent an email saying my name's Ryan, and told my story, and they're like, have you got any songs recorded? I'm like, no. So I quickly got my iPad out, recorded myself playing a few songs live, stuck it on SoundCloud, and then yeah. So from there on, I signed with a record label called. Well, I didn't actually officially sign with Conviction Records. I worked with them for a couple of years. Done a couple of songs, a music video, none of which was ever released. Um, the songs were released later on when they were re-recorded, but those versions of the songs in the music video were never released. And what happened from there is, because my songs were on SoundCloud, I got another message from a company called Red Tangent Records, and they were like, "Could we talk to you?" And you get these messages all the time online as a musician, people trying to sell you things and guaranteeing you 100,000 streams, and so you need to pick and choose who you respond to. And for some reason, I responded, and yeah, it was a company in Bristol who were doing a similar sort of thing as Conviction Records, but they seemed to sort of understand my music a bit better, and they seem to be really big fans of my music, and they've only heard like rough demos on SoundCloud. So yeah, it turned out that I ended up signing with Red Tangent Records and becoming an artist for them.
When was that? What year was that?
Say 2022.
Okay. Yeah.
Just yeah, I would say summer in 22. I signed with Red Tangent Records as an artist.
So it didn't stop there, though, did it? Where did you go next?
Well, yeah, I spent a good 3-4 months traveling from Glasgow to Bristol recording my debut album. So that took about 6 months in total. And then when that came to being released, it was really bad timing, because as an artist, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes at a management level. All you know is that your music's getting released, and they're going to take care of everything else as far as you're aware. But unfortunately, I don't know what happened, but personal circumstances meant that the manager was no longer working for Red Tangent Records. So I was left in a position where my album was due out in 2 weeks' time. I have no manager to turn to and ask. And I didn't know the music industry at that point. All I knew how to play the guitar and sing. So I just started to take it upon myself. Like, if I'm going to if I'm going to seize this opportunity, I'm going to have to learn the music industry and do this myself, because I'm not missing out. I've dreamt of having a record label since I was 15 years old. I'm not letting this go. So I lost my train of thought there for a second. Yeah, so I just took it
your manager's gone, and you exposed an opportunity.
Yeah, I just learned the music industry, kept on promoting and doing what I could do with no budget whatsoever, with no money, just do what I could possibly do to try and make it a success. And then about 6 months later, again, I was still unsure as to what was happening with the record label, if I was going to be continuing. At this point, I was scared, because I just left one record label who were offering me bits and bobs to go to Red Tangent Records, and now I'm a bit in limbo. I don't know what's going to happen. And it just turned out that obviously I maybe possibly impressed people or shown that I was capable of doing it. And then I was like, sat down with so Red Tangent Records is a side project of the charity Changing Tunes, which is an in-prison and post-release music charity that run workshops in prison and out of prison to help people with music. And the CEO then came to me and sat down and said to me that, do you want to have a shot at being the record label manager? And I was like, yep, absolutely. So from there on for the past, well, just shy of 2 years, I think, I've been managing Red Tangent Records single-handedly.
Right. And you've got some artists signed up as well.
Yep. So when I became manager, there was only myself and a band called Whack Therapists that was on the label, nobody else. But we had challenges, and we had to find the right people for the record label, people who qualify, not qualify, but people who had some sort of lived experience with the criminal justice system, you know. And so it's very difficult, because when a lot of these guys and girls leave prison, they sort of they can fall back into their old habits, and they can be lost, and you can't really you can't find them again. So it was hard. It was a long process. I mean, it took about, I'd say, a year of networking and just speaking to everybody about what we do before doors started to open, and we started to meet the right people and get into the right scene, essentially. And we managed to get some world-class artists, in my opinion. You know, we now have, I think, 10 artists, 9 of which have released music with Red Tangent this year alone. And we have another 3 or 4 artists just in the sidelines waiting to come on.
Yeah. And my understanding is you've got an event coming up on the 17th of May in Bristol. Tell us about that.
Yep. So we have a huge showcase going on. We wanted to show the world sort of what we've been doing. So we've put a showcase on at the Bristol Beacon Lantern Hall on the 17th of May. All 10 artists will be performing at it, all doing sort of short sets with a comedian called Ashley Kumar, who's a local comedian in Bristol. He'll be comparing the evening, just sort of introducing the acts and things, just to hold things together, because I am aware that 10 acts is a lot to sit through, but they are so entertaining. And yeah, they've just all the artists have worked so hard to get there, to get to where they are just now. And I'm just so looking forward to showing everybody what we've been doing.
It's not long away. So where do people get tickets, and what does it cost?
Well, surprisingly enough, the tickets are it's great value, £10 per ticket, £8 concessions. So it's essentially £1 per artist. You get to see. Again, to purchase tickets, you'll get it from the Bristol Beacon website. There's also links on What's on Bristol 24/7. And you also get it on Red Tangent Records, social media, Facebook, Instagram, all those places.
Yeah. And do you plan on doing more of those sort of events? Or
Yeah, I hope so. I really do hope so. Hopefully, we also do an event. Changing Tunes, sorry, does an event twice a year. So and at that event, Red Tangent Records always showcase maybe 2 or 3 artists at those events too. But yeah, I'm hoping to do a Red Tangent Records showcase once a year at least. I would love to do a sort of, like a mini tour around the UK, doing a showcase in Glasgow, a showcase in London, So yeah, big plans for the future.
well, you're actually shown so far you're quite entrepreneurial anyway, so I've got no doubt in my mind you'll be doing what you want to achieve. We're going to go on to introduce one more song, which you selected for us. But just before that, you're obviously coming on board and joining us at Dreamcatcher Radio, which we're very much looking forward to, because you come from a unique perspective from other presenters. So we're quite excited about that. What sort of things do you believe that you're going to, I know unsigned artists and stuff like that, you're really quite interested in. And I know you want to show a bit about your music and a bit of the stories behind that. What else could people be looking forward to on your show?
Hopefully a bit of engagement. That's what it's all about. When I listen to the radio, I enjoy, you know what I mean? even I don't know, silly game or something or two to play with the audience, you know, things like that. But it's definitely, it's all about music for me. Yeah, just an eclectic mix. That's all I would expect, you know, because as I said, my music collection is just so unique. I'd say, you know, it's every genre is in my collection, and that's what I enjoy listening to on a daily basis. So that's what I'll be sharing.
Yeah, great stuff. I'm sure we'll be shoving a few curveballs your way as well, just to keep you on your toes. Now,
I'll possibly get a few guests and friends on as well. You know, I've got a few. There's certainly a few friends that I've got in mind that would be good to come on as a guest now and then, just to sort of keep banter flowing.
perfect. Now, introduce the name of your next song, the story behind it. That'd be great.
So again, quite a long story behind this song. The song's called "Tiger in the Well," and when I was in those dark days, reading was a big part of my life. A lot of my inspiration came from the books that I was reading. You know, things like people like Terry Pratchett, Philip Pullman, even Stephen King. Some of my lyrics sort of were inspired from. And I was reading a series of books. It's the Sally Lockhart series by Philip Pullman, and the third book in the series is called Tiger in the Well. And at the end of the story, the bad guy essentially, it's set in like Victorian London, or as far as my memory serves, it's in London. In my mind, it was in Victorian London, and the ground had sort of given. He was in a wheelchair, and the ground had given way, opening the sewers, and he'd fell in, and the water was rising. And there was no way to sort of get him out. And as this was happening, he was telling a story of a tiger in the well, about this village in Asia where a tiger had fell into a well and the water was rising. And there was nothing the villagers could do to try and save it. And I just sort of related with that at the time as I was reading it, as to how I felt when I'd been in a position that I was in. And I was in a very depressed state, and it was essentially a goodbye note to my family, because I had no idea what was going to happen. I had no idea when I was going to come home. I had no idea if I still had a family. You know, I didn't. It's all these questions that I had, and I just that was what I wrote.
Wow. Okay, here you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Like a tiger deep down in the well, body and soul consumed, I'm drowning. Remember my name. Like a bird up high you cannot fly, wings are stretched out, embrace, I'm falling. Remember my name. Thoughts of us are all I need. Thoughts are my only friend indeed. We can go back again in time. Wrap your arms around me, mine. Come back again to where we've been. My only friend. Tigers in their den. Like a beached whale stuck upon the sand, wants to go back like me, I'm trying. Remember my name. Like a shadow cast upon the wall, moves with the sun till dawn, I'm crying. Remember my name. Thoughts of us are all I need. Thoughts of my only friend in need. We can go back again in time. Wrap your arms around me, mine, and come back again to where we've been. My only friend, tigers in their den.
Dreamcatcher Radio is about capturing and creating dreams through music, chat, and debate. Empowering expression, enriching society. A go-to place for unsigned musical talent. A radio station which listens to its audience. Free speech, vibrant, engaging. Stream worldwide 24/7. Events, competitions, promotions. Always keen to have a listening ear. Contact us. hello@dreamcatcherradio.com.
Dreamcatcher.